Welcome to the Autospeed podcast, home of stock car and banger racing in the southwest.
Driver, start your engine.
Love the vans.
Warm in here, I can see why you don't seem so keen to get off home.
Welcome to the Autospeed podcast. I'm Crispen Rosevear. This week we will reflect on the opening meeting of the year at Smeatharpe Stadium. And to help me do so, I managed a post-meeting chat with commentator Alan McLachlan before his long journey back home to Scotland. Steve Pikey Bailey showed that there is plenty of life left in him as he stormed to victory in the 2-litre national bangers to earn the PRI World Championship wildcard. Come September, he'll be chasing another gold roof, this time at the Ministox Raceway. The saloon stock cars rarely disappoint, and their day was boosted by a fourth race which carried enhanced prize money courtesy of the Devon Truck Show. Brothers John and Jason Kingwell were in the thick of the action all day, as was Ian Govier, whilst Richard Regan was rewarded for his rain dance antics as he scored 2 race wins. In the stock rods, 2 drivers made a great start to their season. Brian Edmond won both of his heats on his stock rod debut, while Richard Short scored a heat and final double in his brand new car. Brian and Richard each earned a grade promotion for their double successes, and it'll be interesting to see how they fare when they move back the grid the next time the stock rods race, which will be on Easter Sunday at St Day. A wonderful showing of 44 BriSCA Formula 2 stock cars got their West Country season off to a memorable start, as Joe Marquand made it back-to-back final wins at Smeatharpe. He won the Ladies' Trophy at the last meeting of 2022, and on Sunday he claimed the MDP Services Trophy for a second time to win the first meeting of 2023. I briefly caught up with Joe at the end of the meeting. Joe, final winner on the first day in the pouring rain.
Yeah, it always comes in the rain. It seems to go that way.
It does. I think that when the race started, I looked and thought, well, Matt Linfield's going to be a good shout here. He had a good draw for the front of the yellows. And then as the race was developing, then you were heavily involved. Jack Cave was also involved. And it was sort of looking at, and where is Jamie Avery? It was almost a repeat of the Benevolent Fund.
Yeah. Matt Stoneman was there, and he was probably a little bit behind me, and then catching a knot.
Yeah, and Jamie Jones as well.
Yeah, he was in amongst it, wasn't he? Yeah.
That's right. But once you got out front, then you were away and gone. Tell me about driving in the rain. It's just the visibility is the worst bit.
Yeah, you don't see it. That's why you find whoever's at the front, they get the good pace because they can see where they're going. They can say, yes, that's where the curb is, that's where the fence is. I'll go in there. Don't get that luxury behind someone.
No, when you're following in all the spray.
Yeah, you don't get any visibility really. You can make out shape that there is a car, but you can't react to it. There's no time.
Okay, yeah. We mixed weather today. We started off in surprisingly dry and ended up when it rained rained properly.
Yeah, definitely got just wet. I think that's what it was meant to be. I think everyone knew that it was going to rain like 3-4 o'clock.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, the weather forecast wasn't far wrong.
Funny that, yeah.
Okay, now is that your first final from Red?
Yeah, first final from Red.
Okay,
yeah.
That's another significant milestone then.
Yeah, it's nice to have. Nice to say I've done it now, because I've won, not loads, but a few off blue.
Yeah.
It's nice to now have the red top one just crossed off. Yeah, that's sort of it really.
That's another little tick in the box.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what was also interesting, and you wouldn't have heard it, I doubt you would have heard it, but on the Grand Parade as you were coming round, I know that Alan introduced you and said, here's Joe Marquand, who often seems to grab a final at the start of the season.
Yeah, I've won the MPD one before, MDP, sorry.
Yeah.
And
also St David Voice of
St
Water.
David, I won that a couple of times. Yeah, I think I do want to, and it tends to rain.
Yeah.
I have won a dry final, but I think it was a long time ago.
That would have been the one.
I think my first one.
My
first ever final when we was dry.
Silverline Trophy at St Day.
I think that was dry.
Yeah, okay. And St Day is next?
Yeah, St Day next. I was going to do Skeg, but not enough time. Ran out of hours in the week.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, do St Day, and then I don't know what's after that.
What's after that is a change of tyres,
yeah.
And how that will affect everybody.
We'll see. I know some people had practice days on them, so that gives them a bit of an edge, but we'll catch up. It'll be fine. We've probably got quite a long period on these tyres, so it's not like we'll get to we're not too far behind.
That's right. Yeah, you've got to. Once the season gets into full swing at Easter, then it'll be a lot of racing and.
Yeah, Easter. Yeah, you probably do 2 or 3 meetings, I should think.
Yeah, that's right. And your season as a whole, have you any grand designs or?
I probably want to go to Ireland for the World Final.
Okay.
Obviously, it'd be nice to get in, but there are only 10 spaces in your semi-final, so... And the semis are at... Bristol, which I don't know if that helps. Better than Shale, I suppose.
You won't have to drive through a puddle after the race and try and clean the car.
No, that was a bit close. Yeah, that nearly cooked that engine.
That day at Northampton.
Yeah, our Shale guard was a little bit extreme. Yeah.
Heard some interesting news about the Shale today from Ben Goddard, who said that someone eventually let him into the secret of cover the car in baby oil before you go out, and then it's so much easier to clean.
I think somebody's led him up the garden path for that one.
he was full of it. He's been out and bought shares in it. I think he's so keen.
Yeah, share's not my thing. I've done it once in a Mini and once in an F2, and I think that'll do.
Yeah, not to worry. Well, Joe, thanks for joining us in the soggy remnants of today's meeting. It's been very
Lots of warm in here. I can see why you don't seem so keen to get off home.
Possibly so. Joe, we will let you get on your way, and we'll see you someday in a couple of weeks' time. Well done.
Thank you. Cheers.
So that was BriSCA Formula 2 final winner Joe Marquand, resplendent in his full kit red overalls to match with his revamped car. Next on the horizon for Joe will be the defence of his Voice of Autospeed trophy at St Day on Sunday the 26th of March. Let's continue our reflection of Sunday at Smeatharpe as I spoke at the end of the afternoon with the man on the mic. So we're joined post-meeting with commentator Alan McLachlan. Alan, a real mixed day of weather, but some sensational action and racing today.
Totally. Well, starting off with the BriSCA F2's 44 cars, what's not to like around Smeatharpe? Always tremendous racing, but it was a contrast, as you say, because the meeting started off dry and ended up one of the wettest meetings, and I've seen some wet meetings around here, but one of the wettest that I can remember for some time.
Certainly so, yes. As you say, a real contrast. Start of the day, and I saw Tommy Farrell so fast when he won his heat, and then Matt Stoneman come out and sort of matched him, and you thought this is going to be an exciting final with those two being pushed to the back of the stars, and then the heavens opened.
Yeah, totally. And to be fair to Tommy Farrell, not only quick in his heat, was the fastest in pre-meeting practice as well by quite a margin. So was always sort of looking like he was the big threat after heat one. And obviously not easy for the star graders. You know, what was it, 16 yellow tops you had out on track across the two heats. So a lot of lower graders to get through, and a lot of them not too shabby either. You know, the quality throughout the field really. And then, of course, you had the weather change, which just changed things entirely for the final, and pretty brutal in terms of the final action-wise.
It was. Often you find that the wet weather seems to calm everyone down a little bit, but that final was, as you say, it was brutal. It was really rough, and so many incidents.
Totally. That opening lap where right in front, we had a prime view for once, and right in front of the control box, where I think it was 194 who really had the worst day possible. I think if there was an incident, he was spinning and getting collected and such like, and he of course spun across, and along with Ben Goddard got tangled up, and then they were just right in front of the star graders, and they all went piling in with damage for Paul Rice and the like. So it made it very difficult indeed.
Yeah, dramatic incidents at the start of the final, and then the rest of the race as well. Very lively. Fantastic to see so many cars. I think that, as you've touched upon, so many cars in all the grades, and a lot of really good cars, a lot of fantastically presented cars. To think that in the build-up to this meeting, we were a little bit concerned that maybe the uncertainty over tyres was going to have a negative impact on car numbers, but certainly not the case.
No, absolutely. And the obvious for me, a contrast from the night before at Cowdenbeath, where we are struggling for numbers up there at the moment. Those signs of things that will, as you say, come to more positivity as the year progresses with the change to the tyres. But yeah, certainly no difference around here. And as I say, for me, it's the strength in the lower graders, which is great to see, because that's what you want, isn't it? Is strong numbers throughout the field. the usual visitors. Aaron Vate does more miles than me, and he's in a big wagon, so always great to see him. And one of the other visitors, of course, Dan Fallows, who didn't have a happy time of it, unfortunately, just out of luck, getting tangled up with other people's incidents, really, and then finding himself connected with by one or two errant cars on the pit bend, given the conditions.
Yeah, anything but Dan's day. But hopefully he's not been put off, and hopefully he'll be back again soon, and he'll have better fortune next time for sure. You can't keep someone down of his standard, you know.
Totally, and then I said at the start of the Grand Parade that Joe Marquand was one to keep an eye out on, because since I've been involved with Autospeed, he's had a tendency to pick up a final win early on in the season, and he did exactly that this time round, and it was great. Well, not great, but interesting to see. It was your wet weather specialists who were to the fore in that final.
Yes.
I would regard Joe as one of them.
Joe definitely. Jack Cave was up amongst it. Matt Linfield ran strongly for a long time. I think that Matt Stoneman being up there may be a little bit of a surprise. Don't think of him as really shining in the wet weather, but he had a good day, and certainly Jamie Jones, who travelled a lot of miles, he had another good day. Yeah, another driver had a good day.
He did. He was setting fastest laps towards the end of the final, and actually another few laps I think could well have closed the gap to somewhere, making it interesting with Joe. So typical Smeatharpe, really. You can't ever rule out anybody in these races. You get the odd surprise winner. The star graders can come through, but you also get the lower graders as well. It's what makes the racing so great here.
Absolutely. Turn our attentions to the national bangers. Again, a little bit of a disappointment that we had so many no-shows and left us a little bit short on numbers. And then when the action did come, regrettably, it's ended up with an injury for Sean Brokenshire. So we wish Sean all the best, and hope that that's not too serious. A lot of racing from the bangers, and just a bit of a paucity of action today, I'm afraid.
Yeah, you sometimes just get that, don't you, with the bangers. No disrespect to any of the drivers out there. They try their best. They're putting on a show. They put a lot of work into their cars, so you can't fault them for that whatsoever. A shame a few no-shows, as you say, from the booking list, but sometimes that happens. Mm-hmm. I think for me, it's often looking the skill of the drivers. You know, they could turn the hand to any formula. I'm pretty certain of it. As you say, the Sean Brokenshire injury is an unfortunate thing. Nothing, you know, it was a hard hit into that Honiton bend by Aaron Dark. Certainly spectacular to see, but none of us and none of the drivers want to see another driver injured in that way. Just a sort of freak incident. So wish him, as you say, all the best.
Absolutely. And Steve Bailey, in the awful weather that we've had at the end of today, Steve might have been more at home at his alternative pastime of gone fishing, I think.
Yeah.
And but you know, from Steve, who put so much into bangers for years and years and years, then had a little bit of a quiet spell, but has now come back, and he nabbed the wild card for the PRI World Final. So good luck to him.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, all fair play to him. You would have expected him to end up on that grid at some point through his racing over the season. So to get that secured early on, you know, that PRI World Final was settled into its new home at the Mendips pretty well. I'm not a big follower of bangers, but I know that meeting is sort of grown in stature with the move to the Mendips Raceway. So yeah, good to see him nab that place early, and he'll be able to maybe concentrate on other things and some of the entertaining and stuff during the year.
Absolutely. Saloon Stock Cars. When Mildenhall was cancelled on Friday, we had an influx of 4 extras, which took us to really good numbers, and then disappointing news this morning. Disappointing for the drivers in particular, who broke down en route and left us a couple shy of where we thought we were going to be. But that really didn't make a great deal of difference, because yet again the Saloon Stock Cars, once there's enough of them here, they rarely fail.
Absolutely, and I've said to you a few times that if you go back 4 or 5 years, you would be chuckling away if we said to you you'd be disappointed with an 18-car entry, because the numbers in the West Country were really reliant a few years ago on visitors, whereas that's absolutely not the case now.
Yeah.
And I suppose with the World Final coming up at every meeting, you're going to be looking at the racing from the saloons and thinking, does that tell us anything about the 30th of September? I suppose what I took away from today's racing from the saloons, which again, I love the saloon stock cars, so they were great. Again, contrast with the weather. But for me, it was just, you looked through the Southwest drivers and thought there's a lot of quality drivers and quality cars out there. And it's been, I suppose, a while since, with Buster Jr., the exception.
Yes, he's been the Southwest driver flying the flag for a couple of seasons.
Yeah, well, you used to all the championships up at Cowden Beath, that would always be the Southwest that would be the threat, and I think you can see that sort of quality starting to come again as those drivers start to travel.
Yeah, it's starting to blossom, and as you say, with the World Final coming up in the autumn, September the 30th, that's definitely going to be one not to miss. But domestically, one or two drivers getting reacquainted with one another. There's rarely much. There's really a shortage of action when Ian Govey is involved, and he's certainly got a couple of playmates with the Kingwell brothers.
Totally, and I think I've grown up in saloon stock car racing, and you need your villains and your heroes, and you need the aggro between the drivers, and we certainly got that this afternoon. And you can question various tactics or something, but the drivers all came out race after race, and probably Ian Govey, he's been around long enough, he knew what to expect in the all-comers, and he was never going to be left alone in that race, let us say. And I suppose what it helps is we all look forward to the next outing, roll on for me Good Friday here, and hopefully they'll all be back on track. And as long as, again, no one goes home, you don't want to go with any driver being injured, but if the action takes place on the track, then bring it on.
Bring it on, absolutely. Yeah, saloon stock cars, they very rare that they disappoint, and they were on top form today, whether it was the dry track at the start or the wet track at the end. And
Richard Regan was delighted with the wet track after his heat win. He was doing a jig when he came out of the car, so he'll be looking for more wet meetings, whereas the rest of us will be hoping for drier stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely a man for the rain dance. And then finally, a look at the stock rods. 25 drivers in the pits at the start of the day, emphasising all that we've been talking about for weeks now. It seems, more and more drivers, the numbers are booming in the formula, and there's still another handful that didn't race today that will be racing when we get to their next meeting at St Day. So numbers absolutely sensational. Difficult for them in the conditions. I always think that the rain is they're probably affected more than anyone when it rains.
Quite possibly. Again, great numbers, and I suppose my concern was after the big motivation of the World Final down at St Day last season, would there be a sort of tail off of interest after that one? But far from it. If anything, it's just spurred more people on. I think the racing, it's always interesting. So first of all, Brian Edmond in 79 was flying off the white grade and took those 2 wins in his opening 2 heats. But it's always great to see the drivers who are brave enough to go round the outside at Taunton. That is an outside line, despite what people think. And even in the wet they were doing it, but the likes of Keith Channon and Rhys Langdon, and then latterly in the final it was Barry Trickey,
yes,
who was on the outside and making real progress, and it just in the end ran out of laps, I suppose, and allowed Richard Shott a really good heat and final double. So yeah, plenty of good racing from them. Yeah, it would have been good to have all the races in the dry, but you can't have that, and I thought the drivers did pretty well. Big Rove in Heat 1 got us all on our toes straight away, and it's never nice to see a driver, especially in a nice new car, leave the raceway in bits.
Big commiserations to Sean Gillette there with that rollover, as you say, a really spectacular start. his car was eye-catching just when it rolled into the pits. Looked absolutely sensational. And the next minute, the racing begins, and well, he could not have wished for a worse start.
Not at all. Hopefully we'll see him back out soon, and there'll be a few bumps and scrapes in it. But then I think stock rods look better, but that way.
They're not all they can't all be showroom unless they're Chris McCullers.
Yeah. And again, he did not too badly. I think was good in the dry. I think in the wet, a lot of learning to do in a very different style car to what he's used to in his F2.
Absolutely, but overall. A long day today, a lot of races, a lot to deal with today. But I think on the whole, that's been a sensational start to the season. With so many backstories, so much narrative, so much to talk about. And I always think, just touching on the saloon stock, as you said, and next time, it is like a soap opera. If you saw today, you aren't going to want to miss the next episode. And that's just how it works.
Absolutely. Lots to look forward to, whets the appetite and makes the long journey home worthwhile for me.
Indeed. Well, I wish you well on that journey. I've got a little way to go and you've got a fair bit further. But Alan, thanks again for being with us.
Thank you.
The Ministox will get their season underway at St Day on Sunday the 26th of March. But ahead of that, it is Mother's Day this weekend, which was a good reason to chat with the final guest on this week's episode. Here is Danielle, mum of Ministox 922, Kaydi Butcher. Welcome, Danielle.
Hello.
Kaydi's racing. Tell me how you got involved in the racing in the first place.
So we used to bring Kaydi racing every weekend, and then one weekend it happened to be Ministox on, and Kaydi was adamant that that's what she wanted to do. But
Okay.
kids being hobbies, you'd think, okay, it's not going to last. And she didn't give it up. So we took her for some driving lessons. And then we went up to Smeatharpe for the first time. And then I believe my mum actually came up and spoke to you.
Yeah, spoke to myself and Duncan, and we
Yep.
sent you in the direction of Derek's Elephant.
Yes, and that's where we got the help to get started, really, with Kaydi. Because obviously from us, we're coming from a family that never been in this kind of environment or like any mechanics. But the help and support you get from everyone is just incredible.
Okay. That's interesting because I think that from watching on myself, I feel it is evident that you are new into the environment, and without too much, it's not like you're second or third generation, and so then you're tapping into the support that's there from, typically it's a friendly pit area, lots of people willing to help, offering to help.
And that's what it's shown to us, and that's why we are speechless with it all, really.
Yeah.
We really are the help and support we have got.
That's excellent. That's really good to know, because it's the way that I've always imagined it to be. That when the green flag is in the air and the race is on, then people are rivals. They're competing against one another, and they're trying to race and trying to win. But once the green flag's put away and afterwards, I think that the pit area is a fantastic sort of community where people help one another if you need to borrow something.
It sure is.
That's really good. In terms of being a mum, when Kaydi's out there racing, what sort of a parent are you in terms of? I think I'm thinking of one particular mum here who I'm not going to name, and that would be terribly unfair. But this is from some time ago, and this mum, I remember this mum being particularly nervous when her child was going to race. But then she said, as soon as the race started, she became super competitive and was screaming for her child to go faster and faster. Is that a fair description or not?
I think it is. I obviously, getting out there of her age with none of us having a background like that, I am super proud, but Christ, my nerves do kick in and my heart's going and everything. But then I am very competitive, for her.
Yes.
And I am, but still don't have that nerves. I really am.
But this will be... I can think of Kaydi coming to St Day for her test. She was one of 5 that day, and that's now going to be, that's over 2 years ago, or it'll be 2 years ago at Easter, and so she's done 2 full seasons. This will be season number 3. Are you less nervous now?
I don't know. It's my child, isn't it? But yeah, I am a lot less nervous. I must admit, I am a lot less. I'm just happy because it helps Kaydi.
Yeah.
Emotionally, her, emotional health, it helps. It really does. She feels so much calmer and relaxed after she's been on the track.
Okay, that's interesting as well. The psychological and the social aspect, I suppose, of mixing with other.
That's a big impact that we've had as well.
Yeah,
from it.
Well, that's a really good positive as well. I think that I think what impresses me about Kaydi is the fact that she's sort of shown herself to be such a trooper in terms of she's had some poor luck along the way.
Oh, she has.
There's no question about that. And I think that maybe a lesser youngster or a lesser team might have just said this may not be for them. But I think that she's been, fingers crossed, she's been through the worst of it now.
Oh, definitely.
Come out the other end of it is a lot faster, a lot more competitive. And with the recurring cycle of Ministox, you see the ones at the top end, they get to an upper age and they move on. And then those that haven't been quite so successful, they start to become more successful. And that's how the cycle goes. So I'm not putting too much pressure on her, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to how she'll continue her progress this year.
No, definitely. She's super excited for it this year. Yeah. And I mean, she's determined. Mm-hmm. So, and I've noticed a difference from the last 2 years to this year. It's completely different. Mm-hmm.
And I think as well that you mentioned determined, that determination shines through. To go through, she's, as I keep saying, not had the best of fortunes at time, and a lesser team would perhaps have maybe junked it, but she's persevered, and I think that's a really strong testament to how.
And I think that's why I'm proud of her. I really am, really, really proud of her.
Yeah, it's not all about results, but to see qualities like perseverance and determination is, I understand that's definitely to be something to be proud of. So. This weekend coming up is Mother's Day. Here is the $64 million question, or whatever the phrase is. What to expect from Kaydi for Mother's Day?
Nothing out of the normal, just her attitude. We get nothing else, but her attitude.
You don't think she's busy buying presents and cards and bits and pieces then, maybe?
No. No? She might just do the washing up for the day, but that's probably about it.
Oh dear. Okay. Well, maybe if this is broadcast in time, maybe it'll be an inspiration for her to have a slightly different approach come Sunday on Mother's Day. This coming week, we've got some cars on display at Bradfords in Redurth at the Building Supplies. They've got some open days this week, and Kaydi's will be one of the cars that's there, I believe.
Yes.
That'll be interesting to see what reaction I get. I guess from people going to Bradfords, just going about their everyday business and finding some stock cars and some minis and bits and pieces, some bangers, whatever they're on display. I don't know how that will transcend itself into, some more interest for the raceway.
Yeah, definitely. Good advertisement.
Yeah,
very good.
That's an interesting thing. And that, I guess, is going to be helpful for some sponsors and people that have been backing her along the way. Is anyone there worthy of a shout out from your team? I'm sure there's a few.
I think we couldn't have. I couldn't have done it amongst myself, but obviously it's thanks to my parents really and my partner Bash, and also the main person was actually Derek Silliphant, who actually helped us from the start. But we couldn't have continued without the help from Jim Holford and Derek. Brookin. Sorry, couldn't think of his name. But obviously with all our sponsors as well, we've obviously got the gym, we've got Derek Brookin, we've got SW Transporters. Kaydi's great uncle is actually, he's got a scaffolding company up in Birmingham, and he has sponsored us quite
significantly.
Yes, he's bought her new car.
Okay.
So we couldn't have done it without him. But also Graffiti for supplying us with the paint, sponsoring us for the paint, and also DB Logistics. We couldn't have done without any of them.
Okay,
we wouldn't have been able to.
I think that's very typical of people racing. Everyone needs some support and some backing from somewhere. And if you've got a big long list like you've just read out, then that's terrific. And
it is
to see them putting their support behind somebody and a youngster going out there and enjoying themselves.
No, and we want to say thank you to you guys as well, because the support from yourself and the marshals towards Kaydi has been amazing.
I think that's well, firstly that's very nice of you, but I think I think secondly there's a real care amongst the officials to look after the youngsters, because you hope to see them progress. Whether it's the really young ones in the micro F2s, or even just the young ones in the Ministox. You hope that when they reach those upper age limits, they'll still be enthusiastic to want to go into something else.
It's really shone through, like their kindness towards the kids as well.
That's good.
It really has.
That's good to hear. Well, we wish your team, we wish Kaydi and the rest of you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And car on display next week at Bradfords, and then the following week racing will begin.
I can't wait.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks as always to each of the guests on this week's episode. As we have heard, the next race action with Autospeed is on Sunday the 26th of March at the United Downs Raceway, St Day. In the meantime, there will be cars on display at Bradfords Building Supplies, Dundon's Lane Pool in Redurth as part of their week of open days at the store. Amongst the raffle prizes on offer at Bradfords will be a couple of family tickets to that forthcoming St Day fixture.
If you've enjoyed Autospeed Podcast, home of stock car and banger racing in the southwest, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell for future podcasts.